Peter King joins us right now, Football Morning in America columnist, NBCSports.com. Best show on TV to you, Peter, is what?
Great British Baking Show.
Okay.
I don't know. I like the Great British Baking Show.
It's a great show. Been on a long time.
Yeah, and look, we're not. I've missed so many of these shows. It's almost intimidating when somebody says, "Hey, have you seen this, this, and this?" I haven't even seen Breaking Bad yet.
Ooh.
I mean, I got a long way to go. I'm stuck on The Sopranos.
Yeah, and then if you do Breaking Bad, you got to do Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
So that's the prequel to that. Yeah, you got a lot. Well, you're always working, Pete. You're always on the football.
I'm not really, Dan. Life is a little bit slowed down now. Around draft time, life stinks because you just get competitive and you want to get as many of these right as you can, and it's eminently frustrating. But anyway, I got a big sigh of relief today because there's nothing else I can do right now.
Okay, if I said I'm going to give you a crystal ball and you could find out what this one team would be doing for the draft, the entire draft, what team would that be that you would want to know?
It's a weird team because I'd really want to know the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
Because I have a feeling at 20, they're going to go quarterback. I said Kenny Pickett. Won't shock me at all if they go Malik Willis. But Pittsburgh is such an interesting team because they take great pride in hiding everything that they do. And I applaud them for that. Secrets really don't get out of that building. I'd probably be most curious about what the Steelers are going to do at 20.
I know that you hinted at maybe a surprise at the top of the draft. I saw where the new betting favorite, according to Las Vegas, is Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. Is that a surprise to you?
Well, I've been hearing it for a couple of weeks now, so I wouldn't say it's that big of a surprise. I don't know if it's going to happen, Dan, but I think that, the guy who's got the most power in that building, honestly, is Trent Baalke. He always has been a tools guy with, at the top of the draft. You saw what he did, and Aldon Smith is used as the great comparison because he picked Aldon Smith over J.J. Watt. If Aldon Smith didn't have all the problems that he had in his personal life, he could have had the impact long-term that J.J. Watt has had. Could he have won 3 DPOYs? Probably not, but he could have been a great player. And so I think there is something to it. Some of the plays you've seen Trayvon Walker make on tape are incredible, but he has not made nearly the number of plays that Aiden Hutchinson has made in his college career. And that is what is really kind of a different deal right now.
And I had a source tell me that Hutchinson is the safer pick. Walker has the higher ceiling here.
Yeah.
And I wonder about that, with Chris Long. Well, Chris Long was the second pick overall out of Virginia, and wasn't he considered a safe pick for the Rams?
I think that's a really good comparison because he basically was the guy who everybody thought was the safest pick. Now, Aiden Hutchinson, you might call him a safe pick, but man, he's made some explosive plays in college too. I personally think that Aiden Hutchinson will have the longer and better career. But Dan, if you ask me what player in this draft 5 years from now, we're going to look back and say, well, that is the best player out of this, I'd say it's Derek Stingley. And Derek Stingley could last past 10.
Yeah. I loved him his freshman year. In fact, I talked to Ed Orgeron, and I said, I could see him winning the Heisman, having him be a two-way player. I was that impressed with him his freshman year. And it was a while ago that I had a source say Sauce Gardner is a top 5 pick. And I thought, okay. And then you started to watch Cincinnati, and then all of a sudden it feels like Sauce Gardner could be a top 10, maybe a top 5 pick. So You like Stingley over Gardner?
Well, I like him over the long term better, but I think that Sauce Gardner going before him is probably going to happen, and it's justified. Sauce Gardner basically has played 1,100 snaps of pass coverage in his college career, and in single coverage did not allow one touchdown. And how do you not want to pick him? I mean, obviously it gets tougher at the next level, but to me, I think what he is right now is he's more of a sure thing. And as somebody described to me over the weekend, somebody described Stingley as Darrelle Revis. And I think the one thing about Stingley that people say is that he is a very confident player, and that confidence is justified by how he plays. And one other thing, Dan, he practiced probably 75 to 100 times day to day covering Jamar Chase in 2019. And, that's as tough as it gets. And so I think he's trained well. He had a foot injury, obviously, last year, and that's better. I think Stingley is going to be a real good pro.
We're talking to Peter King, Football Morning in America. I know you're joining us from Berkeley, California. How big of a story is Deebo Samuel?
I mean, it's a huge story, especially if he sticks to his guns and he says he wants out and he's not going to back down. As you know, Dan, about 25%, if that, of guys who ever say, I want out, I'm not playing here ever again, blah, blah, blah. I mean, guys say that all the time. And then 5 months later, they're back in camp or they're back playing for the team they said they'd never play with again. So I don't mean that I think Deebo Samuel is lying or anything like that. I just think that opinions change, opinions become less hardened over time. And whether the 49ers are going to do something, I'd be really surprised if they did something by the draft this week. But we'll see.
Why does he want out?
I don't know the answer to that. And I think that people, people who know him say that he's a little bit more of a homebody, and that this very well could be about the fact that he just wants to be closer to South Carolina, where he's, the Carolinas where he's from. But I don't know how hardened he is in his position. And it seems a little odd too, because a year ago, Mike McDaniel, then the offensive coordinator, said, if you do everything I tell you, you're going to be first team all pro. And he did everything that McDaniel told him to do. And he was first team all pro. And I personally wonder about the absence of the guy who even Deebo said is his favorite coach that he's ever had. So, we'll see if that plays into it.
Baker Mayfield more likely to get traded during the draft or after the draft?
I think after. It wouldn't make any sense to me. First of all, I don't know what you really get for Baker Mayfield. I keep wondering, could this be a Brock Osweiler kind of trade? It's a weird situation that they're in. Everybody knows that he can't go back there, but you don't want to make him just a free agent. As Jeff Darlington said last week, Mike Florio's been talking about it for weeks, that the Pittsburgh Steelers would just go ahead and sign him. How weird would it be if the Steelers take Pickett or Willis at number 20 and they've got Mitchell Trubisky on their team, and 2 weeks later sign Baker Mayfield with the Cleveland Browns paying his salary? That's why I don't think the Browns are going to release him, because they want to have some control over where he goes.
Yeah, I wonder what he's worth, and then is Cleveland going to have to pick up the tab with his salary? Do you think they're
going to have to pick up most, if not all, because they're the ones who said we're going to pick up the option, There's not a lot of teams that have the cap space to do it now anyway. I just don't see any way right now that that they can get away with making a deal for him without picking up most of the salary.
How difficult is it to try to do a mock draft and factor in the draft history of certain teams? Certain teams are really good at drafting and certain teams are not.
Here's the thing, Dan. The thing I thought was hardest about this year, I wish I had written about it because I thought about it a few times. Look at all of the people near the top of the draft who have no draft history or very little. You know, Trent Baalke has some, which is helpful. Brad Holmes in Detroit at number 2. Dan Campbell, they have virtually no draft history. Nick Caserio, he's got 3-13, virtually no draft history. Joe Douglas at 4-10, a little draft history. Joe Shane, 5-7, no draft history whatsoever. I mean, so that's one of the things you can't say, well, 3 years ago, this GM did this and this. There are so many new and neophyte general managers who are in control of this draft. That's one of the reasons why it's so hard to figure it out.
Pete, always great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us, and safe travels.
Hey, appreciate it, Dan. Thank you.
That's Peter King, Football Morning in America.